Sup guys, Zanarson 977 here today to do Terra Formars episode 3 review. So in this episode of Terra Formars, right? Whoa, I mean this series is intense. Right? There's this everywhere, people die unexpectedly. I mean there's so many things that happen in this episode that just outright crazy. It's just insane, right? This is an insanely intense series thus far, right? Your emotions watching this series is like you don't know what to expect. You don't know who's going to die next. You don't know what is going to happen. You don't know even if the humans are even going to prevail, because the terraform Mars, right? Those cockroaches, those evolved cockroaches that they're fighting on Mars. Man, the whole situation is just crazy if you think about it. There's no guarantee for success at this point. Everything has just been going wrong. But picking up from the very beginning, what I want to talk about is the fact that those terraform Mars, right? Those cockroaches, they were on the ship vessel before the ship even landed into the Mars atmosphere. And there was a scene in the episode where Captain Komachi was talking about this to his supervisors because he wanted to return to Earth, right? Because he said that the mission has been compromised. For everyone's safety, it's best if they return to Earth. But they basically told him that, look here, they have invested 20 years of funding and research into this effort. This plan has to be a success. It cannot be a failure. They have to go down on the planet's surface, right? He was talking back and forth with the people on Earth, and then conveniently, just out of the blue, engine blew out right there at the end of a conversation. And so whether they wanted to, yes or no, they began falling back towards the surface of the planet Earth, because he wanted to turn around and head in the opposite direction to go back towards Earth, but they started falling towards Mars, right? And there were six, it's revealed to be that 6 cockroaches were on the ship before it even landed. And I mean, logically speaking, the only way those 6 cockroaches could have been on the ship before it landed is if they were actually there from the very beginning, from the initial stages, meaning that all of this, how it's going down, it was all planned, right? And thinking about it, about it being planned for some ulterior motive, that's the thing that makes the most sense to me at this point. I mean, there's no other reason. There's no way in hell that those cockroaches even have the technology to do something like coming on the ship before it even reach their atmosphere. I mean, from what we know about these evolved cockroaches that evolve on Mars, right? They seem pretty physically imposing. Physically, they are much stronger than humans, so they kill them pretty easily. The humans, they have to undergo these surgeries to boost up their body, to give them other special abilities to fight on the level that these Martians already exist on, right? To even compete with them in terms of physical brute force strength, fisticuff fighting, right? That's what the humans have to do. But from a technological standpoint, humans definitely have the advantage, right? I mean, back on Earth, there's a disease ravaging the Earth, where to deal with that disease they have to come to Mars. But still, the cockroaches have evolved on Mars, where they even got a humanoid shape, and now they are threatening the human species in terms of survival. But from what we know, those cockroaches cannot leave the Mars atmosphere, like in using spaceships, etc. They are not that technological advanced, and it makes perfect sense. So in terms of technology, the humans definitely have the upper hand. So in that regard, the only way that those cockroaches could have been on the ship before it landed was if they were placed there. All of this was planned out for some ulterior motive. That's the only thing that makes sense. Whatever that motive is, we do not know. But another hint that this was actually planned from our ulterior motive is when the engine blew out conveniently, right as Captain Komachi was having conversation with the guy back on Earth, telling him that he wanted to go back because mission has been compromised. Right after their conversation ended, boom, right, just out of the blue, perfect timing, right? Such a coincidence. Perfect timing, the engine blew out, so whether they want to or not, they're landing on the surface of Mars. And from there, um, there is revealed to be six executive officers, something like that, and those six guys, they're actually pretty strong, and they have a lot of combat experience. They easily disposed of the six cockroaches that was in the ship. But then, as soon as the ship began to enter Mars atmosphere, even before it landed, the ship was surrounded by this bunch of cockroaches just swarming all over the ship, right? So because the ship is just basically going to crash land into the Mars atmosphere, for them to survive the crash landing, they had to use the escape pods, right? So they split up into six escape pods, with the groups being directed by one executive officer, and there are six of them. So they spread out basically all across the surface of Mars, right? And one group ended up landing near a pool of water, which turned out to be actually good, because right now the surface of Mars, within the 500 years that humanity has tried to make it become more Earth-like, they have done a very good job. The only problem is those cockroaches that are left on the surface of the Mars. But Mars has become very much Earth-like, and the oxygen level, without the surgery, they wouldn't be able to breathe normally. But thanks to the surgery, that is one of the perks that the surgery has given them, to be able to breathe the Martian atmosphere freely. So they spread out. All the groups are separated. One group was actually swarmed by a bunch of cockroaches. They actually threw up a net and brought down the escape pod ship, right? And there's actually a swarm of them just swarming outside. That's one group. One group landed near water. Not all groups had a good landing. One group landed near what appeared to be pyramids, right? They, I think the executive officer in charge of that one was this Russian dude, the guy with the beard. He landed, and then one of his teammates, Elena. Oh my god! There was this one cockroach that showed up, right? It was targeting Elena. The executive bearded guy dude, he jumped in the way trying to save her, lost his arm in the process, right? Cockroach ended up going down that way, and then he instructed Elena to take it out. So she took out this weapon and she was beginning to shoot it. Right before she even shot it, that thing was, it's like it knew right at the very moment that she was going to pull the trigger. It just sped up right at that exact moment and tore her head off, literally. And I mean, these cockroaches are devastating. In fact, at the very end of this episode, there was one cockroach that was actually hiding in Captain Komachi's ship, well, hiding on top of it, and when they landed, it was just basically looking down at this girl, and all of a sudden we hear the grass crack and we hear the scream, meaning that, that cockroach infiltrated their ship and they now have to deal with that issue. So I mean, right now Terra Formars is pretty insane, I have to admit. Watching this series, it reminds me of when Attack on Titan was going on with the whole Titans issue. I mean, that was one intense, insane series. Death was imminent in that series so much. Every episode someone died, right? Death was so common. I mean, that series was just so insane, right? It reminds me of that series in terms of the fight for survival, the fear, like who's going to die next, because people constantly die, that sort of stuff. It's just crazy. But overall, I thought that this was another good episode of Terra Formars. I liked it very much. So that's it. That's my review. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Sayonara.